Okay, so यही इथिक्सकै कुरामा चाहिँ there was a documentary that I saw, I think it was from Fox. So उनीहरूकोमा चाहिँ what they tried was, it was a very controversial topic at that point. आज पनि छ, जस्तै like if you upload a photo in Twitter, like for example long photo in Twitter, like, and if there is a white person and a black person, like no matter the orientation or whatever happens, like like if like someone from like having a black color or gray color screen, like sorry, not gray, brown color screen mathi bhaye pani tala bhaye pani, it will always highlight people with like fairer or whiter screen, हैन. So that was a very big like eye-opening thing for me, किनकि यस्तो पनि हुँदो रहेछ है AI मा चाहिँ, like systems might get into like biased हुन्छ नि, because त्यसले feed भएको data could be some that could be developed or like could be fed in a place where that's where prevailing, हैन. जस्तै for example, there एकदमै धेरै पहिला there was a app called whatismyage.com or whatever, you know? So if you upload a photo, like it will just say you the age of your person, you know. I was shown 34 when I was 16, okay? So probably I look like 34 in other countries, you know? So I don't know, you know? So how do you manage that kind of issues in AI where like you don't your training sets and like whatever the data that they put in is not biased in terms of the geographical regions or rather like whatever the developers are used to?
You cannot.
Okay.
Twitter ko your example ma actually Twitter ko आफ्नै ethics team, they call it Meta, हैन, did a detailed study of what the biases are. Does the bias exist or is it just fluke? Right? Sometimes maybe like you try 5 samples, audience is the body garदैन अनि it's just like one miscases भनेर. They have a blog post, you should check it out. They looked at it and over time what they realized is like maybe Twitter ko auto cropping algorithm नै unnecessary छ, because depending on why I'm sharing that image, because Twitter is a medium for sharing, right? And maybe I want to focus on certain part of the image and that is why I'm sharing that image, and it may not even like the मान्छेको photo भए पनि what I'm interested in, maybe the books there, like I can take a picture of you right now, share it, and then the purpose of sharing that image is the background ma भएको one of the books to highlight it. Then cropping your face is like useless. But then I could also share the same photo to highlight like how Ravi is so candid during a podcast, right? Then I should crop into your face. And so के photo कतिखेर crop भन्ने कुरा त एकदम use case dependent हुन्छ नि त, and then so maybe automating that is not necessary. Maybe like whoever is sharing the photo should do it. And so मैले भन्दाखेरि पनि त्यही हुन्छ कि what is bias भन्ने कुरा, and I worked like 2 years working on bias detection. Like what is bias भन्ने कुरा नै is you cannot decouple it on where the algorithm is being used. Sometimes the algorithm being biased is good, right? For self-driving cars, an algorithm that will stop whenever it thinks there's a person in front of it, that bias towards पोललाई देखे पनि मान्छे नै डिटेक्ट गरोस्, ट्रास क्यानलाई देखे पनि मान्छे नै डिटेक्ट गरोस्, मान्छेलाई देखे नि मान्छे नै डिटेक्ट गरोस्. आई डु वान्ट टु बिल्ड द्याट बायस, राइट? बिकज एक्सिडेन्टली ट्रास क्यानको अगाडि ब्रेक लगाउनु इज नट एज रिस्की एज एक्सिडेन्टली मान्छेलाई ट्रास क्यान भन्ठानेर हिट गर्नु. सो डिपेन्डिङ अन द युज केस यु मे वान्ट द एल्गोरिदम टु बी बायस्ड. Depending on the use case, you want a perfectly objective algorithm. The other thing is bias, यो जुन race-को bias छ नि, it comes from the data because our world is already like colorist, right? We've all felt that. But it also can come from the algorithm itself. There's a very interesting study अहिले भर्खरै भएको, हैन? And then they discovered that even like they generated artificial data, okay, which wasn't biased based on the race, but then they fed it into an AI algorithm, and then the algorithm like the output was still biased. And so maybe sometimes the system itself is biased. And so understanding what the use case is, what the impact of the bias is way more important than trying to remove bias from the algorithm. And then the last thing चाहिँ त्यो bias exist यसरी गर्छ भनेर डेभलपरलाई एकदम राम्रो इन्साइट भयो भने then you can develop like, because त्यो algorithm सिधै रिलिज गर्ने हैन नि त, you make a user interface, you put it into a product, you have like other wrappers around any automated algorithm, right? As a developer, we all know that. And then how a person uses that algorithm depends on those things more than like what the algorithm does. So there's other like checks and balances, limits, wrappers that can you put around AI, because AI the after decision, it's really hard to tell it what to do. But understanding how the system behaves means that where you release that system, you can develop processes and procedures and user interfaces where you reduce the impact of that bias.
So, okay. So, the last answer is one-liner is it's not possible.
Yes.
Okay. But it's not possible right now. It's like something that might come up in the future.
I think like there's a book called Weapons of Math Destruction written by a mathematician, Cathy O'Neill. And then what she says is like algorithms are opinions embedded in code. Like just the fact that you have an input and then you have a desired output, right? There is some, like there's no objectivity there. Kinani, you want a desired output, right? There's a right and wrong choice. So that means like you're trying to guide the algorithm to work towards certain decisions that you think should be true. And त्यही सेन्समा चाहिँ मैले भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ it's like you can make it race neutral or you can make it gender neutral, right? But you cannot make it completely unbiased from everything, because the world cannot be completely unbiased from everything.
Okay, even to be like right, you have to be biased.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is like truth, right? There is like morally right thing, or there is like a desired way the code should work. There is like language case ma, there's diversity, and then one way of pronouncing a certain word is not better than another way of pronouncing the certain word. There's politics embedded in like Nepali भाषाको अहिले यत्रो निस्किरहेको छ हैन, कसको नेपाली चाहिँ शुद्ध नेपाली भनेर, पूर्वको पश्चिमको हिमालको पहाडको तराईको सबैको नेपाली फरक छ, अनि यसको नेपाली शुद्ध मान्ने भनेको त बायस हो नि त. सेम थिङ विथ इङ्ग्लिस, राइट? Why is American English more standard than Canadian English or Australian English or British English or Indian English? Those are English and different forms of English. And then by choosing the algorithm, you cannot really tell the algorithm that you can tell the algorithm to do something Indian Magor or American Magor or make it random. But all of them are like valid choices, and all of them are biased towards certain representation of English.
Okay, understanding. Interesting.